Hey, this is Heather, and I'm going to be continuing the stories of my losses. If you haven't seen the first video, please go and watch it. That is about my daughter, Raylan. I will be telling all 5 stories in 5 different videos. This is video number 2. This is Paisley's life story, and she is my fighter. And as this video goes on, you will see why I call her that. If at the end of this video you have any questions about my loss or about my first loss, or you have any prayer requests or anything, please feel free to get a hold of me on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook. You can look it up on Facebook. I have a page. It is called Glory Baby Ministry, Southeast Houston, Texas. So we ended the last video talking about my daughter Kaylin, who was my first rainbow baby. And after I had her, how I was talking about, I didn't think I would have another loss, because after my first loss, I just thought that I had a loss because I was young and basically my body just wasn't ready. And then I got pregnant with Paisley. So let's go start with finding out that I was pregnant. Kaylin was a few months old whenever I found out I was pregnant with Paisley. And then I found out that Paisley was going to be due in January, around the same time that Kaylin was originally due, which meant that Paisley would actually be born around the same time as Kaylin's birthday, which is the same time as my husband's birthday, and a week before that is my birthday. So I thought it was perfect. All of us were going to be January. And I was so excited. Really was hoping for a boy. My husband was hoping for a boy. We already had a girl. So we were thinking, oh, okay, second baby, this one's going to be a boy. And we went about the pregnancy. Everything was normal, for the most part throughout the pregnancy. Didn't have any complications to start. Everything, was going fine, smoothly. Didn't have any bleeding or anything until I was about 17 and a half weeks. And then that's whenever complications started. So around 17 and a half weeks, I went into the hospital because I was having severe bleeding. It scared me. I thought that I was losing a baby, but then was thinking, I'm so far along. This is crazy. Nobody loses a baby this far along. At the time, I was very naive to the different types of loss and how far along you can be whenever you have a loss. At the time, I was 19, and this was my 3rd pregnancy, so I didn't really know everything loss related. So what ended up happening was I went to the hospital. They did an ultrasound. She was perfect. Nothing was wrong with her. They did a pelvic exam. Wasn't dilated at all. Everything was fine. So then they ended up telling me that she possibly had a little bit of placenta previa. The placenta was a little low. It wasn't like super low. So they told me to be on bed rest, and that, something might have been wrong with the placenta, and that if I was on bed rest, I'd be fine. So 2 weeks later, I was watching TV with my husband, and we were in the living room, and I felt a shift, and I didn't know what was going on. So I went to the bathroom, and my mucus blood came out. So I didn't want to freak my husband out. I just told him I was bleeding again and I was going to go to the hospital. Something might be wrong with the placenta, just to make sure everything was okay. So I had my mom come and pick me up, and he stayed with Kaylin. And I went to the hospital, and this was at nighttime on the 25th of August. So I actually had already found out she was a girl. I was 19 and a half weeks pregnant at this point. I had her baby shower planned. My best friend was going to be throwing it for me, and I was super excited because, all prepared for her. And this is whenever I went to the hospital on the 25th that evening, and I went to the ER because I was only 19 and a half weeks. They would not send me to labor and delivery because I was not far enough along by medical standards. They said that there was nothing wrong, basically, that I was just in pain. I was contracting. I knew it was contractions. I had one loss and one child, and I told them I was contracting. They gave me a shot of morphine. Didn't do anything. They came in about 2 hours later, gave me another shot of morphine. Didn't do anything. I was still in pain, still having contractions, kept telling them like something's wrong. Finally, the next morning, I had been there for about 10 hours. They get a hold of my doctor, and my doctor is, in his office. He tells them, what are y'all doing? Send her to labor and delivery. She needs an ultrasound. She needs a shot to stop the contractions. What are y'all thinking? So they send me to the postpartum. Not labor and delivery, but postpartum, which still, to this day, it baffles me the way this all happened. So they send me to postpartum. They do an ultrasound like the doctor said. Don't give me the shot to stop the contractions. Do the ultrasound first, I guess, to make sure that she was alive. She was perfectly fine. Heart rate was normal. She was healthy, happy. Don't check me for dilation or anything. They just look at her and they say, oh, she's fine. So then they say, okay, let's order that shot. So I'm in postpartum for about 2 hours. Around 11 a.m., they finally get the shot in. They put the shot in my arm, and as soon as the shot hit my arm, my water broke. It was too late. So the hard part is at this point, my daughter is with my grandmother. My husband is at work because he went to work. I kept reassuring him that everything was going to be fine. Nothing was going to happen, that, they would just help me. And then I remember very clearly my grandfather was with me and my mom was with me, and my grandfather ended up going out of the room telling the nurses her water broke, like freaking out. The lady who gave me the shots trying to look, and my grandfather and my mom are like, no, go get a doctor, go get other nurses, do something, like don't, I started crying, freaking out. I knew it's too late. My water broke. There's nothing they can do at this point. My mom looked and she told me that she could see her coming out. And that's whenever it's like my heart just broke, because I knew, like, this is it. It's too late. She's probably already gone. That's it. Like, we're done. Like, I lost her. It's over. What happened next was my mom told me that I had to push, and I knew that I did, but I didn't want to, so I didn't. I laid there and sobbed, and she came on her own. I guess my body just naturally she came out. The placenta didn't, though. The placenta stayed, and they kept telling me I had to push the placenta out, but I couldn't. I was giving up. I didn't want to push. They started wheeling me to labor and delivery. They wrapped her up and handed her to my mom. At the time, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know what was going on. My mom and the nurse were like standing there talking and looking at the clock, and I didn't know. I was too busy, like, having all these doctors and nurses standing around me telling me push, 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 pushing on my stomach, trying to make the placenta come out, telling me I'm going to get an infection, I'm going to, have issues if I don't do this. And all this time I'm just sitting here thinking, like, why did I lose her? Like, what happened? Is something wrong with me? Why does this keep happening? And then, everything happened. I pushed the placenta out. A little bit didn't come out, so they told me I was going to have to get a D&C, just so I didn't get an infection, which I was like, okay, I understand. And then my mom had her, so after everything, and they, like, left the room, my mom handed her to me. And I got to hold her for the first time and look at her. And it's funny because even though she was so early, I could tell she was going to look like me. And I think that's what made it hard. I mean, it was already hard, but it made it harder because I knew Caitlin already looked so much like her dad. And so I was excited because I was like, oh, wow, like, she looks like me. And I have a nephew, and he looks like me and my brother because we look alike. And so it was like, oh, I'm going to get a baby that looks like me too. And it was hard, like, holding her. And then my mom ended up telling me she was born alive. And I didn't understand because she wasn't, she didn't have, like, skin. She was red. and she wasn't fully formed. So I didn't understand how she could have been born alive. Like, how does that happen? And my mom was like, she had a heartbeat. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, she's like, that's why we were watching the clock. She had a heartbeat for 15 minutes. So this child, there was nothing wrong with her. There was nothing wrong. And I didn't understand, like, if she was alive and she was healthy and she was fine, why did I lose her? Like, what happened? What caused this to happen? So my husband got to the hospital after we had already lost her, and he spent time with her. Some family came. Everyone got to see her and hold her and spend time with her. They took me for a D&C. I had my D&C, and afterwards I was like, okay, like, you know, held her, spent time with her. The hospital took pictures for me. I only have one picture now, because I gave some to other family members because I wanted them to have them too, and that's all we had. And they basically were like, you have an option to donate her body to science. You can have her cremated, you can have a funeral and bury her. She weighed enough to be allowed to be cremated or buried. There's a weight limit where I live in Texas. I don't know if every state has this, but we do. We have a weight limit. If your baby doesn't weigh so much, then they won't let you have a funeral, which is really sad. But I mean, that's the way it is here. And she was just at the weight limit to where they said it was okay. So we couldn't afford it. My husband and I were still struggling. We were still just dating. We didn't have a lot of money, and we just didn't see that being a thing that we could do. My dad, who I didn't have like the greatest relationship with my whole life, actually stepped in and paid for us to cremate her so that we could have her. And I am forever grateful to him for that, because I don't know what I would have done if I had to donate her body and never, you know, see her urn. I mean, I have hers, I have her sister Scarlett, and I have her brother Trevor. I have those three. Of my 5 losses, I have 3 of my children with me. And it's really special to me because I have them. I'm really sorry to those who don't. I'm really sorry to those who can't afford it. And that's another thing I plan on talking about. I mean, with this ministry, that is a big goal of mine. I don't want anybody to ever be in the position where they want their children and they can't have them because they can't afford it. And one of the biggest things with this ministry that my husband and I want to accomplish is being able to have the money to pay for people to cremate their babies or pay for people to be able to bury their babies, because you should be able to have that option. If you want to donate your baby to science, I think that's great. I think that, you know, people who lose babies because of medical issues and they want to help other people, I think that's fantastic. I mean, that's everybody's decision, you know, what they do. And I just think that, you know, people should have the option, though. I think that people should have the resources to be able to do what they want to do with their child. So after they took her at the hospital, and that night on the 26th, it, you know, started getting later in the night and everything, my fever spiked. It started getting really high. I didn't know what was going on. Again, I was new to loss. I'd had one loss, and it was earlier, and they came in and they kept checking me. They didn't know what was going on. Started doing blood work on me, and then it came out. I lost her because I had salmonella. My body had 2 weeks prior. Basically, I had gotten it, and that's why I had the bleeding the first time. It was not placenta previa, it was salmonella. And instead of them treating me for that or testing me and seeing what was wrong, they just automatically assumed that it had something to do with the placenta being a little low. So, that is how I lost her. There was nothing wrong with her. There was nothing wrong with me. I got food poisoning, and my body basically decided that she was a part of the problem, and it put me into labor because it was trying to get rid of the sickness. I ended up on IV antibiotics. I ended up getting iced down. I was in there longer than I expected to be. They had told me originally I could go home the next day, and they ended up keeping me for like 3 days because of the sickness. And that just made it even more traumatizing because I couldn't spend time with my other daughter, who that's all I wanted after losing her, was to spend time with Kaylin, because I was really hurt and I wanted to see her and hold her and love on her. And it was a terrible experience, the whole thing. And then finding out that nothing was wrong with her, that honestly, that made it kind of worse. The knowing that I didn't have to lose her. If they had just done something, if they had, like, as soon as I got to the ER, just been like, hey, let's see what's wrong with her. Let's do a blood test. Let's not just give her morphine, but who cares if you're 19 and a half weeks? They need to change that. A baby is a baby. Stop acting like a baby is only a baby whenever they get to 24 weeks. This is ridiculous. Like, it's a stupid rule. My child could have lived. My child could have been saved. And this is all on the hospital. That's really what it is. It is all on them. She could have had a life. And that has nothing to do with me or her. So after our loss, it was my husband's first loss and my second. Kind of the first thing happened with my first fiance. Depression, anger, a lot of fighting, a lot of issues between me and my husband. And I ended up contacting my ex, who I had my first loss with. I got tattoos for our loss and for my loss with my husband on my back, and I got their names. And it made me think about him. Me and my husband weren't talking. We were having a lot of issues. We were distancing ourselves from each other because of depression and hurt and anger. And so I reached out to him. I slept with him and I cheated. And I basically at that point felt like that was it. That me and my husband were going to split up. That I made a stupid decision and that now I have to figure out my life. And then my husband surprised me at this time, 20 years old. You know, in this generation, I expected him to be like, you cheated, I'm done. We're over. No. He wanted to work through it. He wanted to make it work. He wanted us to learn from it and to stay together and to fix that hurt that we had, that anger we had towards each other because of our loss. And it's because it had nothing to do with us, and we were hurting each other over something that literally had nothing to do with us. Well, about a week after I told my husband about me cheating and that everything that had happened, my ex died. It was unexpected. I got a call the morning that he died, and I thought it was a prank. I thought that somebody was messing with me. The person who called me, like, I barely knew at the time, so I thought that, you know, they were just like trying to start something, and so lying to me saying he was dead. And I mean, I thought it was a really sick joke. And then I called his mom, and come to find out it's true. And that was terrible. The whole thing, I mean, he was my first love. We had our first child together. I just lost a baby, and then he passed away, and I did still love him and care about him. And even though, you know, I was going to make things work with my husband, of course I was always going to love and care about him and want the best for him. And just finding out, you know, there was no explanation. He just died in his sleep. And to this day, I've never been told what happened exactly, just that he died in his sleep. And it just was so horrible. The whole entire situation, it's just, I just lost a baby, and now he's gone. And it was a terrifying situation. After he died, I found out he had a girlfriend. I didn't know he had a girlfriend whenever me and him were doing stuff, which made me upset because I thought that he wanted to get back together, and then found out that he was cheating on his girlfriend with me. He has another daughter with another girl, which is the girl that he cheated on me with whenever we were at the end of our relationship and then cheated on her with me. And it's, it was a lot of back and forth. And I'm happy that his legacy is living on because he had a daughter before he passed away, and I'm grateful for that. His family has a piece of him, and I think that's fantastic. Like, and if any of them watch this, I'm happy for y'all. I really am. I'm so glad that he left a legacy, that he left a piece of him behind for y'all, and that y'all have that. And I know, getting into the next part of this, for a while there was some suspicion that my next child was his. The cheating and the timeline, it all made it kind of, in the way she looks different than my other children. She has blonde hair, and but we can say to this day, we can confirm she is not his, and I know she's not. She is her dad's. But what happened with her was, a few months after Paisley, I found out I'm pregnant again. So, I was not excited for her. I was terrified up until around 24 weeks. Or not 24, I think it was around 20 weeks. Getting past that 19 and a half mark, actually, was the big part for me with her. Because I went from being, afraid of the 14-week mark to being afraid of the 19 and a half week mark. Got to the 20-week mark with Rebecca, and I was like, we're good. She's going to be fine. She's going to, So this is my second rainbow baby, Rebecca, and she is now 3, about to be 4. She was born the day after Paisley's first anniversary. Paisley was born on August 26th. Rebecca was born on August 27th the next year, which is incredible because she looks like me. And she looked just like Paisley. They look the same. And it was, one of those moments for me where I was like, I got her. Like, I got her back. And she's not a replacement. Paisley, obviously, it still hurts. I still love her, and I still wish she was here. But it was amazing to me that basically, like, I had her still with me. And it's like, Rebecca was literally her rainbow. Like, the rainbow baby term, for people who don't know, is whenever you lose a baby and then you have a baby after, that is called a rainbow baby. And then if you have a baby after a rainbow baby, that's called a pot of gold. And they're really cute, sayings for people who have lost babies and then had babies. And she was the rainbow baby. And her and Kaylin both. Kaylin was Raylan's rainbow baby, and Rebecca was Paisley's rainbow baby. And yes, we did go through that while I was pregnant. Terrified that she wasn't her dad's because I had cheated. And then, we got that confirmed, like, a little while back, like, okay, for sure, we know she is his. Like, there's no way that she, and I'm glad that we did that, because it's been a lot. It's been a lot of, worrying that I'm keeping her away from possible family, and now that I know that I'm not, I feel better. But yeah, she's a great child, and after her, 4 pregnancies, 2 good, 2 bad, and I basically was like, if I get pregnant again, I'm afraid I'm gonna lose that baby. So I had decided that I didn't want to get pregnant again, that I was done getting pregnant, and that was it for me. And so that's not what happened. I decided that we were going to start using protection because our crazy selves hadn't been using protection. And so we did, and I got pregnant anyways a few months after having Rebecca. Literally. It seemed like for a long time, every 3 months I would get pregnant. It was really crazy. Like, it's like my body was on some sort of like really weird cycle thing. So the next story that I'm going to tell on the next video is Scarlett's story. So that I will not tell on this video. That is my infant loss. That is going to be one of the harder stories to tell. And like I said before, the further I go into this, the harder things get. It gets really hard. There's a lot that happens as we go, and it's been a roller coaster, you know. But like I said before, by the grace of God, I'm here. I did not take my life. I did not let depression overcome me, and I moved through it. I did it, and God helped me, and I am now here to help other people. I'm now here to tell my story. And like I said at the beginning of this video, if you have any questions, or if you just want somebody to pray with you, or you need to talk or anything, you can feel free to get a hold of me on here or on my Facebook page. That's Glory Baby Ministry, Southeast Houston, Texas. And I am available 24/7 pretty much.